I love books. One of my dreams in life is to have a library in my house. And if you ask my husband, he'll probably tell you I am well on my way with how many bookshelves seem to be popping up around my home lately. I read fiction, mostly fantasy horror stuff, the kind with haunted hotels or quest to save the world type of thing. But I also read a lot of nonfiction with the goal of learning. You know, I love to learn, and books are a great way for me to challenge some of the negative beliefs that tend to get me stuck, like perfectionism, holding myself to crazy high standards, and feeling like I should be able to do it all myself. In this episode of the Bold Life podcast, I'll share three of my favorite books that have helped me challenge that inner perfectionist, build my confidence, and make more progress towards my goals without getting stuck on the hamster wheel of self doubt and procrastination. Okay, let's dive in. If you're new to the Bold Life podcast community, welcome. If you've been hanging around with me for a while, you know I'm a recovering perfectionist myself and a bit of an overachiever. I've shared on the show before how I prepared a 3-inch binder of potential questions that I might get asked before my dissertation defense back when I was a grad student. I didn't have to open it once during the exam, but I did have to staple my pants together that morning. You can hear all about it in episode 14. I also gave my wedding party typed instructions on my wedding day. I like to be organized, but apparently my friends and family don't always appreciate my micromanaging. And I've always held myself to super high standards. For a really long time, this worked out okay. Yes, I got stressed when I got a bad mark on a test in school, but I've always been able to use my perfectionism and my overachieving tendencies to my advantage. It helped me get through years of university and grad school, helped me overcome a really challenging internship, and I got my dream job after graduating, working as a neuropsychologist at a hospital. But once I started my own business a few years back, and the number of tasks on my to do list seemed to explode overnight, perfectionism really started getting in my way. While I was starting my private practice, I was still working full time at the hospital. I wanted to build my private business up to a level where I was matching my hospital income before I quit that job, so I felt financially stable, which meant that I was using all of my free time to put towards my business. For example, I started using all my vacation days to see private clients for the months that I worked. And I was working every evening, I was working most weekends, and I was probably working close to 60 hours a week for a while. And not surprising, I started burning out. I had a toddler at the time. Allison wasn't even a year old when I started my business, and I was trying to juggle all the things. If you're an entrepreneur or maybe a solopreneur, you know how much extra stuff is involved in running your own business. It wasn't just seeing clients that I was doing anymore. I also had to figure out things like scheduling, billing, bookkeeping, marketing. Plus, once the pandemic started and I transitioned part of my work online, there was this whole new world of podcasting and online education and new computer programs and all this stuff that I was trying to do all on my own. Because as a perfectionist and an overachiever, it's always been hard for me to ask for help. Why hire someone when I can do it all myself, right? And I noticed I had all these beliefs about what it means to be a good employee or a good worker, beliefs about how much I had to do on my own, what it meant to ask for help or to even need help, and how hard I should be working. Sound familiar? Thankfully, I've always valued education, like I said. So I started taking courses on how to run a business. And one of the things that kept coming up over and over was the struggle that comes with starting a business, trying to take on the world all on your own, which only leads to burnout. Things like holding yourself to unrealistic standards and playing the comparison game all the time and worrying about messing up or not being good enough or smart enough or whatever enough. I'm still a work in progress, but over the years, I've learned how to get better at delegating, better at prioritizing because there's never enough time for everything on that list, and I'm better at holding myself to more realistic standards. I know I mentioned a few times already that education and finding mentors has always been really important to my own learning and growth. And one of the ways that I learn is by reading. You know, I keep buying more bookshelves to hold my ever expanding collection of books at home, right? And so today I'm going to share 3 books that I think every recovering perfectionist should read, and what I've learned about myself and productivity from reading these books. Okay, book number 1 on my list. It's called Rejection Proof by Jia Jing. I love this book, and I've talked about it on the show before. You can check out more in episode 29 to hear all the details about this book. Here's the short story. In this book, the author Jia Jing shares his story of how he quit his job with the goal of launching a new app. He put all his time, energy, and money into developing the app. He believed in it so much, but he got shot down and rejected at his first investor pitch. So then he decides he never wants to feel this horrible again, and he's going to train himself to handle rejection by purposefully putting himself in situations where he's likely to get told no or rejected. It's very funny, and some of the things he tries to are things like convincing a stranger to give him money, or going into a donut shop and convincing them to make specialty donuts shaped like the Olympic rings. Like I said, super funny and well written, which I love in a good book. It's easy to read. But what I like most is he's so honest about his experiences and what he learns about himself. One of the lessons he learns is that rejection gets easier over time. The more he does these crazy tasks, the easier it gets. And he also learns that people don't always say no, despite how out there some of his requests are. One of my key takeaways from this book is that our brains evolved to fear rejection. We want people to like us. So we often work things up in our mind to be worse than they actually are. We assume everyone's going to say no when we ask for what we want, but that's not always true. Rejection Proof is a great book if you struggle with self-doubt, perfectionism, or people-pleasing. And if reading's not your thing, he also has a YouTube channel where he documented each of his adventures. Book number 2 that every perfectionist should read. It's called Everything is Figureoutable by Marie Forleo. If you haven't heard of Marie Forleo, she's a motivational speaker and thought leader in the personal development and business world. While a lot of her recent work is on helping folks start small businesses, for years she's been helping high achievers bust through some of those limiting beliefs and self-doubt so they can achieve their goals. I picked up her book a couple years back before I knew much about her. I saw it on the shelf at Walmart and I loved the title, so I grabbed it. And I've been following Marie on social media and even taken some of her courses since. Her main point in this book is, you guessed it, everything is figureoutable. She shares experiences throughout her life from when she was a young girl to when she became super successful in business and speaking on stage with Oprah, and how these experiences helped her develop that mantra and that belief. What I like about this book is that she shares personal stories that really show how she worked through some of those hard decisions, or how she got through some of those places that might have seemed like a roadblock. One of the stories that she shares is how she's at the airport and she's running late to check her bags, and she starts to panic. So she goes to this place of self-doubt and self-criticism, starts beating herself up for being late and worrying she's letting her husband down because this is the first vacation they've taken in years and she made them late. But she's able to remind herself that everything is figureoutable. So she takes a few deep breaths, then goes to buy the biggest carry-on bag that she can find at the airport luggage store and shoves all their belongings into that bag just in time to get on the plane. This book was also a great reminder for me that even though everything is figureoutable, you don't have to find the perfect solution. What you need is to find a solution that helps you take the next step. As recovering perfectionists and overachievers, we often get into this habit of analysis paralysis, of overthinking every decision because we're not confident we're picking the right option, which just leads to more stress and more overwhelm. Marie shares how her habit of taking action keeps her moving towards her goals, even if she has to course correct down the road or things don't totally work out exactly as you plan. You have the ability to figure out that next step. And finally, book number 3 that I think all recovering perfectionists should read. It's called Becoming by Michelle Obama. I love this book because Michelle Obama is incredibly open about sharing some of her personal struggles as her husband achieved more success. She shares all about her life and childhood, but also about how she had her own ambitions for her career as a lawyer and how she felt that she needed to pull back a little bit on those ambitions while her husband was starting to run for president so that she could really focus on her family and focus on supporting her husband's career. One of my favorite stories that she shares in this book is how one day she gets so ticked off at Barack after he came home from working out at the gym and she was busy getting dinner ready for everyone, for her husband, her, and her kids. And she shares how she felt a little bit resentful that her husband was able to take the time to exercise and she felt like she didn't have the time. She's trying to juggle raising 2 kids, with her husband away often for work, and she was frustrated that she didn't have the time she wanted. I think we can all relate to never feeling like we have enough time in the day, right? Or always feeling like there are these external pressures on our time, whether it's work commitments or family commitments or other commitments that really drain our time and energy. What I liked about this book was she shared how she realized that if it was really important for her to exercise, it wasn't that helpful just to be resentful at her husband for making the time. She had to find a way to make the time herself. I especially like that she emphasized making time because this is a common productivity pitfall, trying to find time and squeeze more into your day, but that just leads to an overloaded to-do list and feeling like you're constantly playing catch up. So what Michelle Obama does is she makes time by hiring someone to come in and cook for the family 3 days a week while she goes to the gym. I know we can't all afford to hire someone to cook, but it was a really good reminder for me that if the incredible Michelle Obama needs to keep in mind that she can't do it all herself, it is okay for the rest of us mortals to ask for help. Asking for help and delegating can be a big struggle for perfectionists and overachievers. We feel like we should be able to do it all on our own, but that's just not true. We all need help sometimes, whether that's delegating at work, saying no to extra projects that we just don't have the time for, or setting up strategies to reduce your work at home, things like ordering groceries or pre-planning your meals. All of these strategies reduce that mental load, and that mental load can really pile up. All the things your brain has on its mind all the time leads to reduced mental resources and more exhaustion. This book was a great reminder for me of the importance of prioritizing, knowing my limits, and getting help when I need it if I really want to reach my goals. Want more tips on how to get things done in your day? Check out my free workbook, Your Daily Productivity Checklist. In this workbook, I walk you through the strategies that I use to set my workday up for success, with a little bit of pre-planning that saves me time and energy every day. You can get your copy at drnicolebyers.com/checklist. That's drnicolebyers.com/checklist. There you have it. 3 books I've read that have helped me tame my inner perfectionist. If you feel like you might be holding yourself back with perfectionism or holding yourself to crazy high standards, or you're feeling overwhelmed with everything on your plate, these books are not only a great source of motivation and stories, but they also have some fantastic tips and strategies to help you get some relief from that monster to-do list and those nagging thoughts of self-doubt and perfectionism. Okay, that's a wrap for today. I'm Dr. Nicole Byers, and this is the Bold Life Podcast.